Hi and welcome to this session where we're going to look at long division with MrG. Now what you can see on the screen there, not long division, but we're going to have a look at it nonetheless because it's important that we get that real understanding and make sure we understand what's happening in division before we move on to the long division, because it does look a bit scary and people can often get confused. So let's make sure we understand. Here's a nice really simple straightforward division question that we can go through with some short division understanding. Before I get started, I'm just going to apologise for my handwriting. I'm using a mouse to do it. I'm not sure how it's going to go, so do bear with me. So here we're looking at this number 369 divided by 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to break down each digit and group it accordingly. And we'll go through the sort of background to that in a bit. Okay, we're just going to quickly whiz through this because you will have done this before. So we're looking at that 300 divided into groups of 3, and we're going to get one group of 300s. Okay, so we'll often sort of say how many 3's go into 3 or how many 3's go into 6, and it's not wrong to say that, but it's not mathematically accurate. It doesn't show you the understanding, so hopefully we'll get to understanding that later on. When we're looking at this 6 tens, how many groups of 3 can I get of these 6 tens? Well, I can get 2 groups of 3 tens each. And then here I've got 9 ones. How many groups of 3 can I get out of those 9? I can get 3 groups. So there's my answer, 123. Now let's take a quick look at this question. Okay, now you'll see down here we've got the very same question we've just done. What do you think is the same? What's the different about these two questions? I'll give you a moment to think about it. Okay, so some things you could talk about. We're dividing by 3. The divisor remains 3 in both questions. The first digit, the quotient, the hundreds digit, we're starting on 3. But if we notice, the main difference is that when we get to there, 6 here is divisible by 3. So I know that these 6 tens is going to go evenly into that divisor. Whereas here I've got a 7, which is not evenly divisible by 3. So let's work through this one and see how it works out different. Ooh, that went a bit funny. So, what we're going to start off with is the same again. I've got 300s here, and I want to group those into 3 groups, and I'm going to get one group of 300s. Okay, here I've got 7 tens though. Now 7 tens will work into 2 groups of 3 tens, and that's 6 tens altogether, 60 altogether. So I've still got 1 10 left over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 10 and I'm going to exchange it for 10 ones. And I'm going to write it here as though it's 18, and then I have 18 ones shared into groups of 3. I get 6 groups. Okay, so this little item here is the thing that makes this different, this need to exchange, because we didn't divide into 3 groups evenly. So let's take a look at what all of this actually means. Here we've got that question that we've just looked at there before, and I've also laid it out here. You can see I've got my 300s, they're there, I've got my 7 tens, which are over here, and I've got my 2 ones, which are there. Okay, what I could even do to make that a little bit easier, if I turn my 3 into a green, my 7 blue, because I've got my 7 tens, and then I've got my 2 ones there. Okay, so let's take a look at this. What we're doing is we're using the grouping type of division. Okay, there's 2 ways of doing division. It's either grouping or sharing. We're looking at grouping when we do this when we do division now. So I've got my 300s here, and I'm looking to group it into groups of 3 because my divisor is 3. So here are my 300s. If I group it into 3's, I get one group. I've got no counters, no hundreds left over, so I've got a 1. Easy peasy. When I'm looking at my 10s then, I've got 7 tens here. So let's look at grouping. How many groups of 10s do I get? I've got one group there. I've got another group just here. And I've got a 10 left over. So I've got 2 whole groups. And that's what this part at the top here, that's what this is concerned with. Okay, how many whole groups there are. That's important to remember. And then I've got this one counter over here. And I've got to do something with this counter. I can't put that into a whole group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exchange it instead. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to stick it down here. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll cross it out. And I'm going to exchange it instead for 10 ones. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So I've got 10 ones there in addition to my 1. So I've actually, when you sort of count them out, I've actually got 12 altogether there now. Okay, now I've done that, I've exchanged my 10 for 10 ones. So on my calculation over here, I indicate that by writing that 110 that I exchanged, and it looks like now the number 12 because I've got 12 ones. And now if I do my grouping, I've arranged it quite nicely. How many groups of 3 do I have? Whole groups of 3 do I get in that 12? I get 4 whole groups of 3. Okay, nice and straightforward there. And that's what's happening when we're doing that division. Okay, now what's what we're going to do? We're going to have a look at this one now, slightly different question. And we're going to think about what the steps are we're taking each time we do this. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm just going to do it. We've got 7 divided by 4. I've got these 7 hundreds and I want to share them into groups of 4. I get one group of 4 and I've got 3 left over, a remainder of 3 which I exchange to make for 3 tens to make 35 tens over here. Okay, now I did all that very, very quickly, and I did it quickly because I know my 4 times table and I can do some quick subtraction. But let's take a look at what the steps are. The first thing we did is we said, right, 7 divided by 4, 7 hundreds, and I want to put them in groups of 4. Now this question here is important. Remember when we're looking in that previous model, let me flip back, how many whole groups are there? That's the important bit because that's the number that goes on top. So when I do 7 divided by 4, how many whole groups do I have? Well, in whole groups, I've got 1 whole group, haven't I? I do have some remainders. I know that 7 divided by 4 isn't just 1, that would have to be 4 divided by 4. But I've got 1 whole group. The next thing we do is we think about this idea of the remainder. We're trying to figure out what this little 3 is going on here. And what we do there is we say, well, I've got 1 whole group of 4, and that means I've got 4 of my hundreds sorted into a group. Okay? And then I take that away from the 700s that I have to show I've got 3 left over. Let me just flip back again. If we take a look at these 7 tens, I had 2 whole groups of 3, which is 6 tens altogether. And if I take those 6 tens away from the 7 I had to start with, I'm left with that 1 remaining 10. And that's what we're doing here. I'm saying, well, I had 7 hundreds. I've put 4 of them into 1 whole group. How many have I got left over? Well, if I do the 7, take away the 4, I've got 3 whole groups left over. So this is my remainder. Yeah. Now, the question is, where do we put the remainder? Well, we showed that, didn't we, in the last column? We took that 10 in that last question and we exchanged it for 10 ones. In this case, I've got 3 hundreds and I'm exchanging it for 30 tens instead. So I put my 3 here, indicating the number 30. So I've got 35 tens to work with in my next number. Now these steps are really important to remember, and it might seem like an awful lot of thinking. We can do this in our heads really, really quickly because we know our 4 times table. We can do this multiplication, this subtraction really, really easily. And it's important we understand that because actually that's all long division is. It looks scary, but this is all it is. How many holes? We do that division to find how many holes there are. We use these steps here to find out the remainder, and then we've got to think, what do we do with this remainder? Now, this bit here is the bit that works really differently in long division, so keep an eye out for this remainder part at the bottom. Okay, now what we're going to do is, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for long division, and this is the method that we're going to do. Look how scary it is. It's actually really easy as long as you're following the steps. Now, before we get into it, let's just take a look at this question again. We're going to go the whole way through. Over here I'm going to use the short division method, okay, that you've already learned. And over here I'm not going to explain it, but I'm going to do the long division method. See if you can spot what's the same and what's different. So over here I'm looking, I've got 700s divided by 4. I've already worked that bit out. I know I've got 1 whole group, and I know that I've got 3 parts left over. So I'm going to exchange that for 30 tens. Okay, I'm just going to take a look at that step over here in the long division section. So I'll do 7 divided by 4. Okay, and I've got 1 whole group of 400s. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, well, so I've got 1 whole group of 400s. That's 400s I've got in that group there. Sorry, I'm not supposed to be explaining this. I'm going to take that away like that. And then I'm going to, I've finished that step, I'm going to put that 5 down here. And I can draw an arrow if I want to help me. Okay, so now I'm looking back over here in the short division, 35 divided by 4. Well, I know my 4 times table, I know 4 times 8 is 32, I know that 4 times 9 is 36. Well, 36 is too many, I don't need 36 tens, I don't have 36 tens. So I'm going to go with 4 times 8, which is 32. So I've got 8 whole groups of 4, which is 32, leaving me with 3 left over to exchange for 31s over here. I'm just going to carry that out over here. 35, just the same as over here. 35 divided by 4 is 8, and I'm going to take 32 away. I'm just going to have to scroll down a little bit. Again, apologies for the handwriting, I think I'm doing quite well, which is 3. And then my next step is just to stick that 6 down here, so I've got 36. Okay, so 36 over on the short division. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, back over in the long division, I'm working on 36 divided by 4 is 9. And just to finish it off, because I always like to end on a 0 or end on a certainty, I'm going to do my subtraction there and see that there's nothing left over, nothing more to divide. So my answer's the same. Now I hope you've managed to follow this a little bit and maybe start to see that there are some similarities. Before I move on, let me just point out a couple. 35, 35, 36, 36, the answer, and the answer. These things are exactly the same, the steps are the same, the whole thing is exactly the same. It's just that you write more in the long division. Now you might ask me why. Why do we write more? Well, the answer is very simple. With a question like this, divided by 4, dead easy. Don't need to write a lot more. But when it gets when the numbers get bigger and we don't just know the times table and the subtraction isn't just 7 take away 4, it gets a bit more tricky. Now I'm just going to quickly show you this. Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? This mnemonic could help you when you're working out your long division. D, M, S, C, B. Because this is what it stands for: divide, multiply, subtract, check, and bring it down. And that's the idea we're going to use to help us with our steps for our division. Okay. So now we've taken a look at our mnemonic. Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? DMSCB. Let's have a look at how it applies to long division. Now this question again, you know your 6 times table. This does not need long division to do it. However, it can be really useful to use if we're sort of trying to demonstrate what the method is, because we know our 6 times table and makes it a bit easier. So let's follow it through. So step number 1, and we're starting with this digit here, just like we would normally. Okay, we're looking at that hundreds digit, that's 7. We're going to start by dividing. 7 divided by 6. And remember, we're looking for whole groups. We're looking for something to write above the line here as part of our answer. So 7 divided by 6. In whole groups, I get one whole group of 6. Okay, don't worry about working out the remainder. You already know it. I know you already know it. But don't worry about that right now. I know I get one whole group of 6 in 7. Okay, now I'm going to look at the multiply. So this section here is concerned with the remainder. Remember, this is how we find the remainder. So I'm going to first say, well, how much of this 7 have I got in my whole group here? And that's where the multiply comes in. So I'm multiplying the 1 by the 6. I'm going to write it down here. And then I'm going to subtract those. And that's going to tell me how many I've got left. Okay, so I had 700s, I've got one whole group of 600s, and I've got 100 left over. That's my remainder. Okay, I'm going to check it. 7 divided by 6 is 1. I'm happy with that. I get one whole group. I know that then if I take that away, I've got 1 remaining. Cool, I've checked it. And now I'm going to bring down, now this is the bit that is a little bit different in terms of how we actually do it, because normally I would take my remainder and say, right, okay, I'm going to stick it here, and I've got 18 now. Well, if I do that and then try and write my number underneath, it's all going to get mashed up and it's not going to work very well, because 18 divided by 6 is 3, and I'm going to write down 18 like this, and then I've got to try and do my subtraction. It just doesn't fit. So we don't do it like that in long division. In long division, what we do, instead of writing the 1 up here, what we do instead is we take the 8 and we write it down here. So I've still got it, it still says 18. Okay, I've got my 1 here, I've brought my 8 down. Bring down my 8 instead of writing it up here. So I'm now looking at 18. I'm going to do 18 divided by 6. I'm going to go back to the top. Divide. 18 divided by 6 is 3. I get 3 groups of 6 in 18. And I'm going to multiply to see if I can find a remainder. There might not be one, but I'm going to do it. So multiply 6 times 3, that's 18. And take that away to see if there's a remainder. Now obviously I can see there's no remainder. And I'm going to bring down my next number to see what's going on. Now I've got 4. So 4 divided by 6 is no whole groups of 4. Which means I've got nothing to take away. 6 times 0 is nothing. So this is my remainder. My answer is 130, remainder 4. Yeah, easy. Let's take a look at that again with this question. Okay, so I'm going to go through the steps. Divide first. 6 divided by 4, I get one whole group of 400 counters in that pile. Now to work out what I've got left over, I'm going to do 1 times 4, there we go, and I'm going to subtract it. So I've done my multiply and I've done my subtract. So what that's showing me is that when I did 6 divided by 4, I got one whole group, which is 4 hundreds. I take that away and it tells me I've got 2 hundreds left over. And I'm happy with that, checked. Now I'm going to bring down my next digit so I can work it with my tens. Just instead of writing it up here, I've still got 23 tens, I've just written it down here. Okay, I'm going to bring that down. You can use the arrow if it helps you to fill in the gap, but you don't have to. I've got 23 now, so I'm looking at 23 divided by 4. I'm back at the top. Divide. 23 divided by 4. Well, I know that 5 times 4 is 20, and I know that 6 times 4 is 24. So 24 is too many. I don't have 24 to put into a group, so it must be 5 whole groups of 4. I know that 5 whole groups of 4, 5 multiplied by 4, is 20. And I'm going to subtract that to find the remainder. So I've got a remainder of 3 tens there. Done. Let's just double check that. I had 23 divided by 4 is 5 whole groups. 5 whole groups of 4 is 20. Let's take that away and I've got 3 left over. Happy. Good. Bring down the next digit. Again, you can use an arrow if you'd like to. Not essential. And now I've got 38. So again, I'm going to start at the top. Divide. 38 divided by 4. Oh. I know that 8 times 4 is 32. I know that 9 times 4 is 36. I know that 10 times 4 is 40. So what am I going to go with? Well, I get 9 whole groups, don't I? 9 whole groups of 4. 9 groups of 4 is 36. I'm going to have to just scroll down a little bit. Do it that way. So 9 whole groups of 4 is 36. 9 times 4 is 36. That's my multiply step. And now I'm going to take my subtract step. Whoops, apologies. I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to try that line again. The line thing is a tricky one with the mouse. There we go. 8 take away 6 is 2, and 30 take away 30 is nothing. So I've got 2 left over. 2 divided by 4 does not divide. This is less than my divisor, so I'm done. This is my remainder. That's just what's left over, and I'm happy to write that as remainder. If you're at a stage in your learning and your understanding of division that you might write the remainder differently, whether you can write it as a fraction or whether you can continue as decimals, you feel free to carry on, but we're happy to just stop at remainder for now. Let's focus on the division part. Okay, so that's the steps. It's really, really straightforward. We start by dividing and write down how many whole groups there are. We multiply those and take it away, multiply and subtract to find the remainder. And then bring the next digit down and start again. Okay, now, like I said, dead easy when you're using numbers like 6 and 4. But what if the question was this? Now, offhand, I don't know my 17 times table. I don't know about you guys, but my 17 times table does escape me a little bit. And this is the reason that we use long division. I don't have my 17 times table. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by actually working it out. Okay, get yourself your times tables going so you know what you're dividing by. So I could do 17. I can double that. And I can double that. Double 2 times is 4 times. Now I can add those on to make. I can add those together to make 3 times. 7 plus 4 is 11. 30 plus 10 plus that 1 from the 11. 30 plus 10 plus 1 is 50, so that's 51. Now, 5 times. I could do 10 times. That's 170. And I can half that to find 5 times. That's 85. Half of 160 is 80. Okay. Now 6 times is double 3 times. That's convenient, isn't it? And I could keep going. Now I'm going to pause there for a minute. I'm just going to have a look and see what I can do over here. So I'm dividing by 17. I'm going to write down my mnemonic. Does McDonald's sell cheese burgers? Bit of a funny B there, but there we go. Bit of a funny M as well. Okay, so I'm going to start by dividing. 2 divided by 17. Well, that's 0. I know I can't divide that. I know that there's not enough there to group. So I'm going to move straight on to my 22. So divide. 22 divided by 17. Well, looking here, I can only get one whole group of 17. So that's a 1. Tick. Multiply. So 1 times 17 is 17. Tick. Subtract. Let's take those away. So here I've got 2 take away 7, 2 subtract 7. I need to exchange to achieve that. So I'm going to leave 1 10 there and put 1 here. 12 take away 7 is 5, and I've got 1 10 minus 1 10, so that's 0. Subtract. Done. Am I happy with that? 22 divided by 7, one whole group, that's 17. 17 add 5 is 22, so that must be right. I've done my subtraction correctly. Cool. Done that step. Next, bring down the next digit. 51. Done. And now we go back to the top again. I'm going to switch colours just so I can keep ticking along. I'm going to switch to a purple. So I've now got 51. Let's start with divide. 51 divided by 17. Here I can get 3 whole groups of 17. Divide. Done. I'm going to carry it through. Multiply next. So 3 times 17 is 51. Done. Subtract. Let's take it away and see if there's any remainders. 1 take away 1. 5 tens take away 5 tens. Done. Check it. So I had 51. 51 is 3 times 17. Taking it away. Cool. I've got nothing left to bring down. That's the end of my number. Done. The answer is 13. Okay. Let's move on a little bit further. I'm going to pause it here, or rather I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds. You could hit pause. I've given you your 17 times table over here. You have a go. Write it down on a piece of paper. Give it a go. Press pause. Give it a try. Okay, let's go through it together then. Did you start by writing down your mnemonic? Does McDonald's sell cheese burgers? If you didn't and you struggled, why don't you have another quick go? Press pause. Okay, I'm going to carry on. Right, so we're going to work our way through this. So I'm starting with 7. 7 cannot divide by 17. I'll give you a little hint, a little trick. If this number here, your divisor, is greater than 10, or greater than 9 even, if it's a 2-digit number, I'm not going to be able to divide a 1 digit by a 2-digit number. I'm not going to have enough pieces. Okay? So I'm never going to work like that. So I'm going to start off, and I'm just going to say, well, that's going to be 0. And start with 71. Makes life a little bit easier. Right, so I've got my 71. I'm starting on divide. 71. Let's look down the list. Well, if I've got 4 groups, that's 68. 5 groups is 85. I don't have 85 tens to do that, so it can't be 5. So it must be 4 whole groups of 17. Done that step. Multiply. So 4 times 17 is 68. I'm going to take that away. 71 minus 68, well, I've got 1 minus 8 that I need to exchange, so I'm going to have 6 left over, and that's going to be an 11. So that's a 3 there. And 6 tens minus 6 tens is nothing. So I did my multiply, that was my 68. I did my subtract, I've got 3 left over. Let's just double check it. So 71 definitely can't be 5 times, it's 4 whole groups, which is 68. Done that. Subtracted 11, 8, 9, 10, 11. That works perfectly. 68 add 3 is 71. Cool. Done. And then I'm going to bring down my next digit over here, so that I've got my next bit to work on. 34. Let's take a look. 34. There it is. Okay. 2 whole groups of 17. 2 times 7, that's my division. 2 times 17 is 34. There's our multiplication. Let's take it away. 4 take away 4. 3 tens take away 3 tens. And give it a double check. I had 34. It's definitely 2 lots there. 17 times 2. Okay. Cool. Nothing left to bring down. I've got to the end of my number. Job is done. 42. Let's take a look at another one. Here I'm doing 720 divided by 42. So let's start by building up our times tables. Now what we don't need to do is work on all the times tables. You can if you want, if you're really concerning yourself with just getting the hang of the method of long division. Having all the times tables there will help you, just like knowing all the times tables off by heart. But if you don't know all the times tables, what we can do is we can just have a set. Okay, I'm going to go for the 1 times, the 2 times, the 5 times and the 10 times, and those we call them money facts sometimes, like £1, £2, £5, £10. Okay, now all I'm going to do is I'm going to work those out, and the reason I've chosen these is because they're dead easy. 1 lot of 42 is 42. 2 lots of 42 is double that, and it's nice and easy to double and halve, so I like to go with that. That's 84. Okay, now 5 times is a bit trickier, but I can do 10 times nice and easy. All the digits moving one place to the left, so 10 times will be 420, and 5 times is half of that, so that makes that nice and easy as well. So that's 210. Now I could find some others. I could find 4 times by doubling 2 and things like that, but I'm just going to stay there for the time being. Next step, I'm going to write down my acronym. Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to start in green just so I'm going. So I'm looking at 72 first. Remember, we know that 7 doesn't divide by 42. I know I'm going to end up here anyway, so let's just start there. I'm looking at 72 first. Now, one lot, I'm doing the dividing first. 72 divided by 42. Well, looking over here, I know that I can only get one whole group of 42. So one whole group of 42, that's my dividing done. Now I want to find the remainder, and I do that using these 2 steps, remember. So one lot of 42. In that one whole group I've got 42 bits, and I'm going to take that away from the 72 that I had. 2 minus 2, and 70 minus 40. Okay, so I've actually got 30 tens, remember, there. So that's my remainder, 30. I've done my multiplying there. I've done my subtracting. Let's just give it a quick double check. So 72 divided by 42, well, 2 lots is 84, so definitely only one whole group, and one group of 42 is 42. Take that away, 72 minus 42 is 30. Good. Bring down my next digit, even if it's a 0, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to bring down my next digit. Done. Okay, I'm just going to switch colour so we can carry on next. So I've got 300 this time into 42. Now looking over here, I've got 210 in my 5 times, but that's not really big enough. I mean, that's still 90 away and it's 42, so it's going to be somewhere over here. So it's deciding which step I think that we would like to take. So I think what I could do is I'm going to find maybe my 8 times. I'm going to find my 2 times, so I'm going to go use that for my 4 times. So I've got 84, double 84 is 168. Okay, and I'm going to double that to get my 8 times and see where I fit, where my 300 fits. So double 168, well double 8 is 16, and double 160 is 320. So 336 is double 168. Now that's too many, isn't it? I've only got 300 that I want to put into groups of 42, so I can't get 8 full groups, so that's no good. I'm going to subtract 42 from that to get my 7, and that's going to bring me to 294. Okay, 6 minus 2 is 4. 33 or 330 minus 40 is 290. So there we go. That's my number, isn't it? I'm going to get 7 whole groups, and that's how we can use just these key facts to help us. If we'd written down the whole lot to start with, that would have been nice and easy. We'd have been able to see that straight away. But sometimes that can take a long time in itself. So I'll just write down some key facts. Anyway, let's get back. So my dividing, I've worked out 300 divided by 42, 7 whole groups. Excellent. I'm now going to do my multiplying. So 7 times 42 is 294. And then I'm going to subtract that to find the remainder. Now I could do the whole exchanging thing, but actually do I need to? Let's look at the question. It says 300 minus 294. Without exchanging, I know the answer is 6. Don't we? Because I know that if I add 6 to 294 I get to 300. They're really close together, these two numbers. I don't need to do all the exchanging if I think about the question for an extra moment. Now let's just give it a check. So 7 lots of 42 is 294. Take that away from 300. 294 add 6 is definitely 300, so all that seems fine. Bring down, well, I've nothing left to bring down, so I've got to the end and I've got a remainder of 6. So there's my answer. 720 divided by 42 is 17, remainder 6. Job done. Let's see you have a go. I've given you the tables, so that's nice and helpful for you. You can just concentrate on following that method. Write your acronym down the side and give it a try. Press pause and have a go. Okay, so hopefully you've had a good go at that. Let's go through it together and see what we find. So I'm going to start by writing my acronym down the side. Does McDonald's sell cheese burgers? Divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down. Okay, so let's begin over here. I know that 9 won't divide into 40, so I can't put this into a group of 42. It's never going to happen, so I'm going to look at my 2 digits starting here. So I'm looking at 98 here, 98 hundreds I've got. I'm dividing that into groups of 42. Let's look down my list. Well, I know that I can have 2 lots of 42. 2 lots of 42 is 84, so I'm going to get 2 whole groups out of that. I don't have enough. I've only got 98. I don't have enough to get 3 whole groups. So I've got 2 whole groups. There's my division. Now I'm going to multiply 2 lots of 42 is 84. Okay, and subtract it, and that's going to tell me what my remainder is. So 8 minus 4 and 9 minus 8, or 90 minus 80. So I've got 14 remaining. Let's just check that. So I've got 2 lots, 2 whole groups. 3 groups is too big, so definitely 2 whole groups. Double 42 is 84, nice and straightforward, and my subtraction looks good too. And then bring down the next digit. That went a bit wonky, that arrow, sorry about that. Tick. Okay, let's move on. So I'm now looking at 147 here. So let's look down my list. Well, 4 lots would need 164 to have 4 groups of 42, so that's not going to work. I need 3 whole groups. So 147 divided by 42 is 3 whole groups. Remember, always remember, this is just about the whole groups, and then these 2 steps, the multiply and the subtract, that's about finding the remainder. So let's do the multiply then. 3 times 42 is 126. Done. And let's take that away then to find our remainder. So 7 minus 6, 40 minus 20, and 100 minus 100. So I've got 21 left over there. Give it a quick double check. 126, well, 3 times 40 is 120, 3 times 2 is 6, so I'm happy with that multiplication. That makes perfect sense. 40 times 4 is 160, so I'm pretty confident of my times tables. I know that 3 whole groups was the right one, and I'm happy with that subtraction as well. And then let's bring down the next digit. Okay, I'm going to switch colour again now. Run out of colours, let's go with red. Okay, so I've got 215 as my last step. I have nothing else to bring down, so this is going to be the end. 215 looks like 5. 6 lots is 252. I don't have 252 to divide, so I'm looking at 5 whole groups there. So there's my dividing done, 5 whole groups. Multiply, so 5 times 42 is 210. Let's check as we go along. So let's just check that. 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 40 is 200, so that multiplication seems good. And we do the subtraction to find the remainder. Sorry about that wonky line. 5 minus nothing, 10 minus 10, 200 minus 200, so I've got 5 left over there. And actually I didn't need to do the whole, you can see that, can't we? 215 minus 210, and we know that that's 5. So I'm happy with that subtraction as well. I've nothing left to bring down. I'm at the end of my calculation, so that's that done. And I need to write down my remainder. So what I've got left over at the end, once I've finished all my number, is my remainder. 235, remainder 5. Okay, so that's the long and short of it. I hope you're feeling a little bit better about long division now. If I just flip back up here, use this mnemonic to help you divide, multiply, subtract, check and bring down. Remember that this check step here, I put an arrow next to it because this is a really important step. This can be quite complicated, especially the first few times you try and do it. And there are lots and lots of things happening. We use lots of calculations. There's lots of places to make a little mistake. So make sure you keep checking all the way through. Okay, don't forget about that cheese part of the cheeseburger. Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? Okay, I hope that's been helpful. I hope that you're feeling a little bit more confident. Keep practicing, that's the best thing you can do. Make up a question and practice it. Practice, 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 practice. Use a calculator to check your answers and just keep practicing. Okay, good luck and thanks for watching.